So it's been exhilarating and freeing to have a career as a visual artist and as a designer, because there I can just I can play more. And of course, what kills curiosity, and this happens somewhere after fifth grade, I imagine here, at least in the States. What kills curiosity is the death of taking chances. Kids don't think about taking chances. They take chances all the time. It's why they have so many accidents. But accidents, as Austin Kleon, the great champion of accidents and of curiosity, puts it, your best art will come from your mistakes.
William Nericcio is an artist, graphic designer, theorist, and teacher who lives a busy life crossing cultural and intellectual borders, la frontera. He lives his art and he teaches what he lives. It's his bio frontera. His art, writing, and artwork satirize false cultural images to disrupt them and unmask them. The unmasking helps find the power and the creativity of the more authentic selves underneath. The moment the mask comes off is a startling and powerful assertion of oneself. It's like ecstasy without the drugs. He was born in Laredo, Texas, in a state that was once part of Mexico, in a city literally on the border of Mexico with Nuevo Laredo on the other side of the Rio Grande River. His parents have mixed Mexican, Sicilian, American heritage. On the border, geographically and culturally, identity matters. But whose image is whose? What is your identity in a border zone? His PhD thesis is related to his artwork. It has the title of The Politics of Solitude, Alienation in the Literatures of the Americas. The terms that stand out in that title are solitude and alienation. He has written scholarly books on Chicano cultural issues. He has mounted exhibits of his provocative artwork. His artwork challenges, his artwork provokes questions. His artwork uses satire to exaggerate and to break false images. It invokes a more honest curiosity. It's the moment of revelation, if we want it. Can we understand what lies beneath what has been unmasked? Are we willing to do that? Can our curiosity be freed from politics and a dominant curiosity? At San Diego State University in California, a state with a large Hispanic population, he is a professor of English and comparative literature and Chicano studies. At the university,
Chicano.
he is
Chicano.
also
Chicano.
At the university, he is also the director of the Master of Arts in Liberal Arts and Sciences program, known informally as a degree in curiosity. A degree in curiosity is a bold and unusual idea. Is that even possible? When I started to think about this interview him, I thought that the art, life, and thinking of William Nericcio is too rich and complex to approach in a few minutes. But he's a teacher and a communicator. He'll be gentle with me. He'll forgive my mispronunciation of Hispanic words, and I'm not going to attempt the impossible. My focus as part of this series is curiosity and what fosters curiosity. In this case, I'm wondering what the relationship is between creativity and curiosity, and how can you examine them without destroying them as mere intellectual objects. How does he use curiosity and creativity in his work and in his life?
Yes.
So, Bill, your life and your artwork seem to put you in a mental border zone that is culturally between Mexican culture and American culture. An experience similar to that would be immigrating to the United States, or being a second generation immigrant, or being indigenous in America. You live in two different cultural zones at one time. In a cultural border zone, you are exposed to difference and otherness. That gives you the opportunity for a different kind of perspective, a different kind of identity. I compare this exposure to difference and otherness as a condition for a deeper curiosity. The recognition of difference and otherness can prepare us for a deeper curiosity. When we recognize difference and otherness, it can open us to what we don't know, to what is beyond us. Living in a border zone, you could have more clarity, or you could have more confusion, more stress, and your sense of identity could be blurred or shattered. So my question is, what was your experience of this as a child growing up in Laredo, Texas? Was it easy or difficult for you? Was there a moment of heightened consciousness when you realized what was happening?
Thank you very much for that introduction. Very, very thorough. You've done your research. What was it like? You're a kid. You don't think about it, Shawn. You don't really, you're in it. You don't worry about it. You're just breathing it in. I'm growing up in Laredo. I'm watching Gilligan's Island when I get home, and then I'm going to my father's room where he's smoking and drinking Schlitz and watching the Mexican Johnny Carson, Raul Velasco. So I was born in the 60s, so early 60s. So TV is the godhead of everyone's life. And we happen to have two, one big black and white in the living room. My father had a 12-inch screen in his bedroom. And I'm bouncing between English and Spanish. My parents are speaking largely English to me, my sister Josie, my older sister Josie, and Marianne. But they're speaking Spanish to each other. And talk about curious. Well, you're a kid, you want to know what they're saying, so you learn Spanish. And my background is working class. My father was a postal clerk. My mother was a telephone operator. We did have, as most people did in Laredo, we had maids, criadas, and so my first language was Spanish. My first 2 years, because my mother went back to work, and so Spanish and English is just. I imagine someone in Montreal goes through the same thing with English and French, depending on what barrio you grow up in. And so I have to say I didn't give it very much thought or curiosity until I went to the University of Texas for my bachelor's degree, and then especially where I became Chicano, and I'll explain a little bit more about that, at Cornell for my PhD. I really didn't become extrovertedly Mexican identified or Chicano identified until I went to a place where there were none of us. There were 18,000 students and 24 Mexican Americans at Cornell in 1984, in the fall of 1984. So by default, because I was a graduate student, I became a faculty mentor to undergraduate groups of Mexican Americans. And it was in that capacity as my pastoral duties as a faculty figure that I began to explore deeply my own Mexican background. And a Chicano, by the way, is just it's not just, but it's a politically engaged and active American of Mexican descent. But we have a lot of allies. There are African American Chicanos. There are Brazilian Chicanos. There are Poughkeepsie Chicanos. We have allies all over. And so Chicanismo is a very interesting movement. It is something to be very curious about because it is a blend of ethnic heritage with politically engaged social activism, which describes my work.
Did that change your sense of identity about yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Right. I remember trying to get dates in high school, and I was telling everyone I'm Sicilian and Italian, actually Italian, just to get some play. It failed miserably. But Laredo is 99% Mexican and Mexican American. It is a kind of homogeneous safety zone for Americans of Mexican descent. I'd never been a minority or felt like a minority till I went to upstate New York. Even in Austin, I hung out largely with people from Laredo. And so I never had the experience of feeling secondary or of being put upon. And in Tex-Mex, my first book with UT Press, I call Laredo an oasis of Mexicanicity in the heart of the United States, even though it's at the border. And so I like to say that the crooks were Mexican, the police were Mexican, the judges were Mexican, and the police and the judges that were crooks were Mexican. So everyone was Mexican. You didn't think about it. The way people differentiated against each other in Laredo was money, class. So class issues were huge because it's a bougie merchant's villa, Laredo. And the other thing is indigeneity. Mexicans, like Americans, and I imagine some Canadians, favor white skin. And so if you're of a darker hue, if you speak with a pronounced accent, you might get some shit hurled your way. I grew up with Johnny Carson and Dean Martin and Perry Como, and so my English was largely good. If anything, I got abused by my Mexican friends who call me gringo.
I'm sure you're aware of the mythic figure of Coyote, who is a creature of border zones and a creature who crosses boundaries willfully without compunction. Coyote has a primordial energy and a primordial consciousness. He is a wily, mythic force who transgresses borders and disrupts and educates. He's a creator and a destroyer. He doesn't obey norms. He's uncultured and uncivilized. He can be revealing but unreliable. The stories of Coyote are often strange, which makes them memorable. In one Navajo story, Coyote learns to take his eyes out, but ends up with empty sockets without eyes. So he takes eyes that other creatures lend to him. It's a story that could be interpreted different ways. Is Coyote a fool who loses his eyes and ends up with eyes that don't fit him? Or does he gain the wisdom to see with different eyes? Coyote appears in Mexican and Mayan mythology, as well as among other cultures. And the word coyote is also a slang word for a smuggler of people across the border of Mexico into the United States. You may not be Coyote, but I think there's something uncanny and wily and instructive in the kind of complex role that you've created for yourself. You expose and you satirize in the border zone, and you might identify with the creative energy of Coyote, maybe even the ecstasy of Coyote, but you're more civilized and more ethical than Coyote. In your artwork, you're not communicating, excuse me, in your artwork, you aren't communicating through the straightforward language of analysis. You are communicating through visual images and through satire. Um, those images require the audience to do some interpretation. The language of satire is cunning and evasive and requires an adept interpretation. Satire in itself is a kind of mask, and the satirist can wear a mask too. So, what is your identity as an artist?
Man, that's some deep shit there. Um, huh. It's funny as you were doing the coyote soliloquy. I was thinking like, all I know about coyotes is because they've eaten two of my house cats. Because we've got coyotes all over our neighborhood. We're right off a canyon here in California. But I love the mythic, the archetypal power of the figure of the coyote. It reminds me of one of my mentors at Cornell was Henry Louis Gates Jr., Skip Gates, and his most powerful book for me, now that he's a PBS TV star more than a professor, was The Signifying Monkey. And of course, the signifying monkey in African culture is very much like the coyote in Native American culture. They are trickster figures that are able to excel at subterfuge, at camouflage, at being hidden. Their power is in their power to surprise. And in my art and in my teaching, I'd never thought of it in this way, but that's part of what I'm trying to do. It is an exercise in producing surprise as a kind of provocation to epiphany. And so the figure of the coyote is appropriate for my art. I believe in juxtaposition and parody. My favorite artists are satirists like Lalo Alcaraz, and who just won the Herblock Award. He's a prize-winning Chicano political cartoonist. William Hogarth was early on a huge influence on me. I loved his series of meditations on prostitutes, on drunks, and what satirists do, of course, is show us ourselves, not at our best, but at our worst. And the only way to startle people who have no sense of shame, which is what we're living through in the United States now, the death of shame, is you have to startle them more violently. You have to shout sometimes. You have to be vulgar and inappropriate. And I'm largely shielded because of my role as a quote-unquote intellectual by the university. The university is kind of a cape or a shield I can use, but it's also very stifling. Contrary to popular belief, even in the humanities, most university professors are quiet and careful and quiet. Did I say quiet? And safe and actually conservative. And so it's been exhilarating and freeing to have a career as a visual artist and as a designer, because there I can just, I can play more. And of course, what kills curiosity, and this happens somewhere after fifth grade, I imagine here, at least in the States, what kills curiosity is the death of taking chances. Kids don't think about taking chances. They take chances all the time. It's why they have so many accidents. But accidents, as Austin Kleon, the great champion of accidents and of curiosity, puts it, your best art will come from your mistakes. And so, Yeah, I wanted to say something about curious, if you don't mind. I'm curious about the word curious, right? And you're writing a whole book about curious, so of course, my training or background was largely influenced by post-structuralism and Jacques Derrida. So I'm a nut for etymology. So I had to look up the etymology of curiosity, and the first thing most dictionaries tell you is that it comes from the Latin word for care, right? Like care. I'm curious. I care about you. But then it's got all kinds of nasty stuff in it, right? Eager to know, desirous of seeing, often in the bad sense, solicitous, anxious, inquisitive, odd, strange. And then my favorite, the objective sense of exciting curiosity is by 1715 in English. In booksellers' catalogs, the word was a euphemism for erotic and pornographic. So the curious, or to be curious, is kind of edgy. It means that you stick your nose where it's not wanted. It means that maybe you're gawking. But without it, we lose our drive, we lose our imagination, and we lose that capacity to make mistakes.